The Origin of Buddhist Meditation by Venerable Rungruan Papasaro, Dr. Rungruan Lim Chu Patapa. Before the day of enlightenment, the Buddha experienced with many traditional practices, including the mantra meditation, but he found there was no sign of seeing the truths of life within nature. Therefore, he changed the practice by having a mindfulness initialization and development instead, then using the mindfulness in making an insight observation, and then gaining wisdom for the destruction of the taints on the day of the Buddha enlightenment. In comparing between the manta meditation and the Buddhist meditation, the mantra will force the mind to be calm with concentration by reciting a short sacred word, while the Buddhist meditation will initiate a mindfulness to perform Yoniso Manasikara. Then the mind becomes internally steadied, composed, unified, and concentrated, and the mind will learn a dharma through this experimental practice as well. Although the mantra meditation of Brahman practice may be able to suppress the troubling mind for a while, and then trying to dwell the mind into an absorption. In this scenario, an arising unwholesome inside the mind can be compared like growing grasses in a lawn, and a mantra power is like putting a stone on top of the grass. As a result, the grass stops growing, but when the stone of mantra power is lifted off, then the grass will grow up again. The Buddha explained that the mantra meditation can only temporarily contain the problem inside the mind for a while. But, in Buddhist meditation we will have a mindfulness as the acknowledged element of mind to learn on the Dharma. This is a way to activate a cognitive process development inside the mind to gain wisdom, and then applying the wisdom to abandon the arising unwholesomeness. This is the Buddhist way to implement the threefold study strategy to learn the various kinds of Dharma to gain the perfect wisdom for the destructions of defilements by wisdom. There is nothing wrong in performing the mantra meditation, but the mantra meditation will dwell the mind into the inner mind without developing a skill in abandoning an arising unwholesomeness. While in performing the Buddhist meditation, which is a special application of Yoniso Manasikara with careful attention on the Buddha's teachings to abandon an arising unwholesome mind, and then the mind would become internally steadied, composed, unified, and concentrated. That is, the mind become concentrated with mindfulness as follows.
There are alternatively 5 ways to perform a Buddhist meditation by either one of the following methods. 1. Having a mindfulness listening on Dharma. While listening to the Buddha words, then learning on the Dharma of the truths of nature. The mind will be mindful and dwelling happily, and then the mind will become internally steadied, composed, unified, and concentrated. 2. Having a mindfulness discoursing on Dharma. While discoursing on the Buddha words, then having a clear understanding on the matter of the Dharma of the truths of nature. The mind will be mindful and dwelling happily, and then the mind will become internally steadied, composed, unified, and concentrated. 3. Having a mindfulness rephrasing on Dharma. While rephrasing on the Buddha words, then having a clear understanding on the context of the Dharma of the truths of nature. The mind will be mindful and dwelling happily, and then the mind will become internally steadied, composed, unified, and concentrated. 4. Having a mindfulness reflecting on Dharma. While reflecting on the application of the Dharma on the present condition of mind. The mind will be mindful and dwelling happily, and then the mind will become internally steadied, composed, unified, and concentrated. 5. Having a mindfulness signing on Dharma. While signing on the context of the Dharma. The mind will be mindful and dwelling happily, and then the mind will become internally steadied, composed, unified, and concentrated. By performing any alternative of such guidelines, then the mind will be in gladness, in rapture, bodily and mind relaxations, happiness, concentration, insight with disenchantment and dispassionateness, and then the mind is liberated. This is greatest Dharma.
The Dharma of the Buddha's teachings could be the words of the Buddha in full context, or a brief one in Dharmapada, which is part of a line or stanza of the Buddhist doctrine. The Dharmapada was very popular for performing the Buddhist practice during the Buddha time as recorded in a collection of Dharmapada. An introduction of the Buddhist meditation in replacing of the mantra meditation was a breakthrough. At that time everyone who wanted to perform a Buddhist practice, had to at least remembering a short Dharmapada before performing a Buddhist meditation. There was a story of a monk named Chula Pantaka who after being ordained to be a monk for several months, but still could not remember any single Dharmapada, so he could not start the Buddhist practice yet. His elder brother gave up the teaching, and suggested him to leave the monkhood. The Chula Pantaka became desperate and he decides to leave the monkhood. When the Buddha learned this incident, he gave the Chula Pantaka a simplest way to perform the Buddhist practice by giving him a piece of cleaned cloth, and asking him to keep on having mindfulness rubbing the cloth. By doing so for a period, the Chula Pantaka found that the cleaned cloth turned to be dirty, so he became to realize that no matter a person may be born to, eventually all of them will get old and dead anyway. This was a truth of nature that everyone had to go through. No one can avoid it. So he see the Dharma that everything and every phenomena are impermanent, deteriorating, and no self. And then he proceeded to the higher Dharma till the liberation of mind, and becoming a noble person. The Buddhist meditation in effect is not limited to only making the mind to be calm and concentrated like the mantra meditation, but the Buddhist meditation will also be served for the study of the Buddha's teachings. And we can summarize the benefits of the Buddhist meditation into 4 areas as follows. To study the Dharma to comprehend the truths of mind. To investigate the Buddha's teachings, by applying a Buddha teaching as Dharma into the consideration. To abandon any arising unwholesome mind. To make the mind to become internally steadied, composed, unified, and concentrated, and thus enhancing the mindfulness with concentration for further mind investigation. In Buddhism, study on the Dharma is not limited by faith, but the Dharma must be investigated through reasons, terms, and phrase with experiencing to gain confidence as follow.
The Blessed One taught me the Dharma with its successively higher levels, with its successively more sublime levels, with its dark and bright counterparts. As the Blessed One taught the Dharma to me in this way, through direct knowledge of a certain teaching here in that Dharma, I came to a conclusion about the teachings. I placed confidence in the teacher thus. When anyone's faith has been planted, rooted, and established in the Buddha through these reasons, terms, and phrases, his faith is said to be supported by reasons, rooted in vision, firm. It is invincible by any ascetic or Brahmin or Deva, God, or Mara or Brahma or by anyone in the world. That is how. There is an investigation of the Buddha in accordance with the Dharma, and that is how the Buddha is well investigated in accordance with the Dharma.